Hey everyone, I'm David Room. I hope everybody's having a good Memorial Day weekend. I did a bunch of yard work over the weekend, um, including this morning. I was out tilling my garden and cutting down some trees in the yard. So now it's time to do some programming, and I have something that is a bit overdue to work on here. So I have all these sort of custom data structures for 3D mesh data and hierarchies of 3D meshes and different ways to visualize it. And I have actually in a live stream, I built this wrapper for using this library called Polyscope for viewing that data. And it's been working well, but it's sort of the functionality of that wrapper is based on an older mesh viewer that I had. And after using it a bunch and kind of thinking about what features I want, I'd like to build a new wrapper. So we're going to dive into that today. This is kind of tool building, um, and I think it's going to be a nice concrete task that we can get done in about an hour or so, maybe less, hopefully less. And yeah, let's just jump right in. So I'm going to get some music going. We're going to listen to some White Bat Audio uh, cyberpunk industrial fight music mix, and this starts off with one of his songs that I like a lot. So we'll get started, and I'm just gonna tweet about being live on Twitter, and then we'll get started here. So um, yeah, I found Polyscope to be really interesting and useful library. I like software that is sort of designed for doing something specific, and that's one of the things I like about Polyscope is it's not like a general purpose 3D rendering software. There are specific things that it does and doesn't do, or does and is harder to do. And it kind of goes well with what I need, which is sort of a quick way to view 3D meshes in the setting of this programmatic modeling that I do. So let's kind of look at the current interface and let's see what the problem is. So I'm just going to run this 3D printing bench script. So if you follow me on X, you might see that I'm working on 3D printing some cool models of my ships, and I wanted to print a stand. So this is the Polyscope viewer viewing the stand that I designed, which is like these robotic arms. Let me actually just exit after this one of these views. And I need to refactor some of this as well, but we'll just exit here. So because it runs pretty fast, and actually let me get rid of this view as well. And there's another, I think when we're viewing this pad, we can get rid of that. So yeah, okay, so there we're building this object and viewing it. So it's very quick to construct these things programmatically, and we're looking at them. So the problem here is that well, actually here, let's bring back the other. So the problem is that I don't have a very nice interface between these data structures that I'm trying to visualize and the visualizer. So, and this is kind of following from this older interface that I had. If I view a list of meshes, I get them each sort of separately in the viewer, and it gives each one a different color. In here I can enable and disable them. I can see the different ones, turn them on and off, but they don't have names. If I view a set of parts and if you've watched my streams before, you know parts is my own format that most of my software uses for working with a hierarchy of meshes. It's just a dictionary of different models with some properties that like describe a parent and a transformation and stuff like that. When I use my parts viewer, it basically just flattens everything down. And I'm tossing the ship here, but it flattens everything down into one piece. So I can't really see individual things. This doesn't help me with debugging things too much. So what I want is I want an interface that lets me specify not just a list of meshes, but meshes with names and various properties. And another issue that I have right now is that I think it's called View Polyscope, is that I have this kind of awkward interface where it's like a list of meshes and materials, because this was the way the old interface worked. So, you know, this material thing here is like an object, and or what, I don't know what it actually even is. But I'm pulling a lot of data off properties of the mesh as a tri-mesh object, and I would really rather not be having to convert things to tri-meshes and put stuff like face colors and vertex colors on them. I would like this to just work with my own formats and my own data structures. So that's part of what we're going to try to do here. And we might probably will actually keep some of this code, and the axes code and stuff like that. But yeah, in general, we want a nicer interface that has names that we can identify things with and has better data structures. So I'm not going to be ready to put this right in my main modeling repo. So let's develop it in, actually, you know what, I probably am. Because I think this other stuff, I think it will be pretty easy to use this backend. So let's actually just go right in modeling. And let's just say, let's see here. Let's see if viz. So we call these functions. A lot of these functions that invoke this are in this util. I hate to call it view polyscope new, but it's kind of like a new interface that I want. So maybe we'll just call it we'll call it polyview. Get this set up here. And just for starters, we can grab some of this configuration. Just copy paste, and we're going to define a record type for some things right away. Okay. So what are some things been thinking about this for a little bit. And actually, let's just bring, whoops, let's just bring Polyscope back up, because I want to think about the terminology. Yeah, so these are surface meshes, structures, I guess they're called. Structure. I think we're just going to call it a model. Doesn't really matter what it's called too much. We'll call it a view object because we want to have a model field. And I'm going to look at parts just quick. So part is kind of like the main thing that I'm manipulating a lot. I don't want this to be a part or hold a part, but we can do something similar. So it's going to be just for now, we'll make it optional mesh. And one thing I'm going to do here is, like with part, a lot of times in my code I try to avoid default values, but I think in this case it makes sense to use them because the defaults are all going to be basically very obvious things like missing, basically just not present. So no like no crazy behavior or different things to encounter if they're not working. So let's see, previous way behind. Okay, so let's think about this. Now the current viewer doesn't actually have a transformation for the part, but I think we do want that. And let me just bring up Polyscope again here. So because I think we can put transforms on things, right? Yeah, so right now, like we're not using this capability right now, but this is something that we're gonna start doing. So we'll have a transform, and this will be basically we'll just make this be a tuple for now. So this would be a rotation matrix and a translation. Okay, and then we want to have some different like properties. And rather than have these be like dynamic in a dictionary, we're actually going to seek to flatten these all out right now. So what do we currently want to do? We want to do face colors. Face colors is going to be a Do we have the colors? Yeah, face. Yeah, just as long as we're doing this, let's add the text colors. And these are gonna, a lot of these are gonna be optional. Transformation will not be optional. We'll actually just go ahead and make this frozen right away. Oh, okay. Maybe everything is maybe everything is optional. Sure. For text colors, I think we want auto smooth angle. I had and okay. All right, and that'll be good for now. Okay, now we're gonna start stealing some of this stuff. So we are gonna steal this stuff here. And we're just gonna okay, so our main function is just going to be called view, but instead of this awkward interface where we have a single or multiple mesh objects as a tuple, and we have this goofy like thing where we can take a tri-mesh or not, we're just going to say something like view objects, and we're going to have this be a dictionary of a string to a view object. And then we're going to also have this thing called info, which is going to be a list of pairs of string, and this will be for the This will be for the in-GUI like info that gets shown. And there's probably like a way to set a title too, so that might be a nice thing to add. But I'm not going to worry about that right now. And what we might actually be able to do is rewrite this guy to use this interface. If we wanted to, but I think there's going to be better ways to do that. So actually, let's disable this, and then in our bench, instead of calling this view parts, let's do a view parts PV, and we can do this. This is garbage. We can do here. Some of these are kind of, I don't know what I was. And for now, let's just work on the single root case. So let's start sketching this out. I'm just gonna copy and paste this. A lot of this is going to be reused. I think we don't have to worry about the circular reports here now. Well, maybe. Okay. So instead of an index here now, we have a name, right? So we have a name and a view object in view objects.items. And we're not going to be doing this anymore. So, so yeah, so for now it's just going to be mesh data. So what we want to do is view object is none. We want to make an empty mesh. You know what that is. The object. Height trim sometimes needs a little bit of help. Oh, come on. Object. Got model. There we go. Mesh. This check probably isn't necessary, but we're gonna just enforce it here. And these are not tri-mesh meshes anymore. Okay, so now instead of index, we're gonna have the name. Okay, now we can add some properties. So, okay, so here's where we're gonna do the properties, right? So if view object dot auto smooth angle is not none, then we're going to take this just check Twitter quick here. Okay, so we're going to smooth, and this is this kind of changes some properties of the mesh. So we're just gonna assert a couple other things too here. Custom backspace policy, and then here if the auto smooth angle was not none, then we're going to set smooth shade to be true. Okay, and then this, we're going to get rid of this logic because we're just going to assume that the good scale or type is going to be passed in here. And see, Polyscope is expecting floats, which is what we want to send in. So I could even do an assertion here, right? So instead of this, it's going to be view object dot face colors is not none. I'm going to assert that the face colors dtype is np dot float 64 and face view object face colors faces. And then this is sort of assuming that if shape is shape 1 is 4 and so here we're kind of faking transparency. And any of those face colors are less than 1. Then we're going to do this transparency setting thing. Yeah. Okay, something similar here now for vertex colors. Kind of have this alternative way of finding some different scale factors and things. I'm not going to call myself into question too much on this. Do we actually set... Okay. Doesn't look like we actually set the length scale. Oh, shucks. That... Keeping that. And the custom callback for the keys. That does backface culling and stuff. And then there's a couple of bugs that show up with the current approach that I want to see if we can't sniff out with these. But we can do that in a sec. Oh, we want to add our info here too. So link line here between info and our little keys. Okay. All right. We'll work out the logic for this later. Okay, let's see if this works. So now we've got to write our corresponding function here. Okay, so this should be pretty straightforward. There's a function here for kind of converting. Oh, that's going to be just the. Just gotta do this. Let's find rotation matrix. And then we can do. Actually, let's do this right here. this is just kind of a lot at once, but it's just some annoying stuff. And our translation is going to be translation. Else step 03. And we have to add this transformation to in our year code. That's right. I think I was forgetting something. And its name is Theo, and then we can call this, right? So polyview.view videos and just this one. Okay, so this guy. Oh, come on. Are you not ice sorting now? Come on. Oh, that's done. There we go. Okay. Okay, yeah, we have to add the transformation. So it'd be funny if I didn't have stuff for making actual 4x4 transforms, but it wouldn't surprise me. I just always forget. Forget which part the rotation matrix goes in. But actually, I might not have to do that. I think I might be able to add the rotation and transformation separately. It's a 4x4. Well, we can actually just look at the code. There it is. Something like this. All right, let's see what this does. We might have to invert some things, switch some things around, but I think this should more or less work. So, hold one. Okay. Okay, we've got a none type. Yeah. I need to change this. It's just annoying. Wait a second. Oh, that's why. We can't do that. Ah, there we go. Good. Okay. So we don't actually have any parented stuff or anything here. So let's go back to our stand and so this is gonna have a couple pieces missing, but yeah, it's working. And this is what I wanted to see. Exactly what I wanted to see. So, yep, so our layout is basically being set here in both cases by the meshes, not the axes, right? And you can see everything is getting a different color. We should be able to easily like click on something and see which one it is. Yeah, see, this is Q0, this is R0. Now, okay, now one thing I don't like about this is that these are being sorted by name. But, I mean, if they were going to be sorted, that's the way I'd want to have it done. And I can always prepend, I can always like add a prefix or something to make sure that things are displaying in an order that I want. Let's see here. Now, here's a question. Why do we have one view here and then a slightly different view here? I would have expected that. Let's see here. These don't seem to be big problems. It's a little annoying that it's not the same. Reset camera to home view. Oh, that's interesting. Maybe it's this. Is it this? We're not. Did some of this stuff out? I bet that's it. Hmm? Nope, that's not it. Let's see here. Scale. Let's just see what the center is in both situations. Okay, so I've got a thing in the chat here. KKZ a goat asks, "Are you using Pygame?" No, I'm not. So I'm actually not doing game programming per se right now. I am doing some work building some utilities for visualizing 3D models with Python, and I'm using a similar set of tools that I actually used to do the modeling programmatically, which is NumPy, TriMesh, things like that that are more designed for scientific computing. In other videos, I'm doing some game development with Python using an old engine called Panda 3D. So, but right now we're using TriMesh, NumPy, and Polyscope to view the 3D meshes. Oh yeah, so libraries I'm using for getting the 3D rendering display, that's Polyscope. So Polyscope is a nice C++ library for visualizing 3D data that also has a nice Python wrapper. And the neat thing about Polyscope is it's really simple. It's more just for like putting a bunch of objects on the screen and not getting into things like a scene graph or lighting or things like that. It uses matcaps for surfaces, so it just is very simple to use and it's very fast. So okay, what I'm doing right now is I'm just doing a little bit of debugging because I'm rewriting this old code to have kind of a new interface for visualizing stuff, and some things don't match up quite right. So I am just kind of double checking some calculations, because the objects that I'm visualizing are identical. In one case I have a combined set of meshes, in another case I have separate parts, but it seems to me like the calculations should be the same. But there's probably a good reason that they're different. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, that's totally different. Interesting. Wonder what's different about this. Oh, I guess I am. Okay, I gotta get some more music going here. Let's do some synthwave for something a little bit more chill. Okay, so yeah, I suppose I'm doing the transforms now. Let's just try something, and let's try something else here. So let's flatten this into a mesh here, and then just do this arms mesh. Complaining about this. Oh, we got it here. I just want this. There we go. Okay. Okay, so it is actually just something about how I'm calculating the center when it's one mesh versus a bunch of parts. And I don't think there's anything I can do about that. I'm not doing anything Find center. It's like just the Polyscope bounding box. So I guess it's doing that bounding box separate, like differently. The bounding box operation does not commute across a single mesh versus a bunch of meshes. I wonder why that is. Huh. Doesn't anyway. Okay. Well, I'm fairly satisfied with that. So. Okay. So. Let's do something else here. So just gonna leave a note here. Go back to our normal bench and let's look at some characters. So I have an ongoing project to do low poly humans with the Python code. We'll use that to test because there's a piece of functionality I'd like to get going here, which is that there are certain properties that these meshes can have that I want to translate into colors, and I have kind of a roundabout, horrible way of doing that, and I would like to replace that. So okay, so it's this game materials view parts that we're using here. So view parts, both. So this is what our original viewer looked like, and again you can kind of actually, let's just get rid of this extra visualization here so I'm not wasting our time with it. And here's what our characters look like. And again, with this old viewer, we have the problem where, you know, everything gets combined together. Here we have the separate meshes, but they don't have names, so it's hard to use, hard to interact with. Okay, so we want our inputs PV. And then we'll update our game materials view parts. Yeah, see, this is what I wanted to see. Yeah, great. Yeah. Perfect. Great, and that automatically does nice colors too. And the colors that are assigned match the colors here, which is like a weird issue with the other approach that I wanted to work out too, because like that's a problem here. So yeah, see, this is mesh 65 and then it shows this color, right? So I don't know, it'd be nice if everything was synced up, I suppose, because that's face colors, that's why it doesn't show it. Okay, so let's rewrite game materials view parts to use this new interface, because everything generally seems like it's working. So let's just copy this. I guess one thing that we are still going to want to work out is, I believe all of this handles like multi-root, which we haven't implemented. Oh, I guess this one doesn't anyway. So we're good there. Okay. This convoluted logic here. Ugh, this is such an improvement. Okay, so view object mesh equals art.model. This is our thing again. This is not hard to do. What am I worried about? This is just trans equals actually, wait just a second. There's a function that does this already somewhere. Yeah, this is what we want. Yeah, okay. That is, yeah, okay. This is already written. Okay, so yeah, and this ensures that things are NP arrays too. Okay, so yeah, let's fix that other trans. Yeah, this is exactly what we want. Okay, and then here it's going to be the same thing. Trans. Okay, and then here's our other properties, which we've these colors. Smooth angle equals might want to have a way to sort of globally disable auto smooth, but color. Oh, that's another good one. What was I doing? What was I doing with this? Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's right. Because game color. Yeah. That's right. Okay. I think we're doing this correctly though. So in my game, most meshes have a single color. Because I don't use textures, so they just have a single color, and then the way we handle this is that if if there is a color, then we turn that into a set of face colors. So let's see here. So if is, because yeah, we only are gonna go down this hole if this is actually a so if is instance model, if it's a mesh, so if it's a mesh, then we'll go through this rigmarole of building face colors from this model. Then we have our view object, and then our view objects goes into my name, and width. Whew. Wow. Okay, so we're not doing the transformations right at all. Wow. What happened? Okay. So trans of name, and we have to do the same thing up in here. I was just using only the local transformation, which doesn't make sense. Trans name. Okay. Yep. And values. Okay. Our colors are getting messed up. Somehow. Yes, face colors here. Oh. Face colors. Okay, let me see how I was handling that originally. So I think it's the alpha channel. I've got an alpha channel on there that's throwing it off. Yeah, that's what's going on. This needs to be this, and same thing with vertex. Yeah, okay, I think that should solve that. Okay. And that makes sense. So what we can do here is instead we can test assert that it's none, or if all the face colors are the same. And if they're all the same, it doesn't matter if they're none, we just need to prepare a new face colors array. That's all the same. So let's see here. So we want to none or np all. Let's see here. So let's just put this into so view object that face colors is not none, then we want to assert that same. So np all, and assert that it's face colors 0 is 1. That's kind of redundant, but I just like that for clarity. And then np all view object dot face colors equals view object dot face colors. And I think, will that broadcast correctly? We'll see. And then, okay, then if view object dot face colors is not none, then we're going to make a new face colors where this, so we're not repeating ourselves so much here. Okay, so face colors of face color 0. I'm just going to get rid of this because that's going to be more correct. Len of mesh.verts, and then down here Okay. Let's see if this... This is... Oh. This is... Easy fix. Come on, here we go. Yeah, there we go. And we're showing the smoothing properly too. Now I'm gonna add a flag actually at this level to control whether we want to auto smooth, because that's something that I think will be used really often. I don't want to have to manually turn it on and off with the part sets. All the time. It's just like one of those things that is going to be used. So we're going to let me just add the same check here, just so we don't get confused when things don't work. Okay, and let's see here, where are we propagating smoothing, smooth angle if auto smooth, else none. Okay. So we've got kind of a drop-in replacement now. Maybe let's actually just add a nice little info display here. Oh yeah, we could use this summary. Do something like this summary. Okay. Okay, so it looks like our info isn't showing up. Oh, there it is. It just wasn't expanded. Okay, cool. All right, so let's get that kind of cleaned up, and then I think we're good. Materials, we can grab that too. Parts.info. Okay, and let's just, there is a something like 256, so we have a little bit more room. Here you can see our part breakdown. Let's put that total afterwards. Now, what else could we add here? What else do I have? I have summaries. I've got... I could have a root name, maybe. You'll have to think, but this is a nice way to get info in there. Handling multi-root stuff is going to be a little bit more subtle, so I don't really want to do that right now. You know, it would be nice if that color would show up. The color would show up, but that's not a big deal. Man, this is actually, it's just really looking good. This was the main thing that I wanted here, right? A nice listing of the individual parts, so I could see what's what. I'd like to figure out how to use this selection too, so that like when I click on a part, I can see some information like its global transformation, stuff like that. But also not super duper important. All right, well, we don't quite have 100% replacement for the original functionality, but we're really close. I'm gonna commit this to into my repo and be done for now. And hopefully, eventually, we can get rid of the original function and just run everything through this new one, because it's nice to have that ability to have more information shown, have names of things, stuff like that. So probably should have an option to not automatically color things and default to gray. So but not super high priority. Well, everyone who watched, thanks for hanging out. If you thought this was interesting, I have a ton of other live streams and videos on my channel where I'm doing similar stuff. I'm hoping to get back into some game development too. I just started playing the new MechWarrior 5 Ghost Bear game, and I got some really neat ideas for some things I'd like to add to my game that I think would be pretty easy to do in a live stream. So watch out for that, and yeah, have a good rest of your evening, and thanks again. Bye.